It's Friday evening and I am in one of my favorite places, my sewing room, because this weekend is going to be a sew weekend. Last night when I realized that I didn't have anything to do this weekend, absolutely nothing on the calendar, I decided to make this a selfish sewing weekend and sew myself a two-piece outfit that I've been wanting to sew all summer. It's been on my to sew list forever. So since I plan on taking my time and sewing this over the course of the weekend, I decided to record my process and share how I approach sewing with y'all. Before I share what I plan on sewing this weekend, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tiffany of TipStitch, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where we discuss all things sewing and DIY. My goal this weekend is to sew a dupe of this skirt set from Pretty Garden on Amazon. One of my good girlfriends wore this on a girls trip we took last year and I absolutely loved it. So of course she sent me the link, which I will put in the description below, because you should grab this too. It comes in probably like 20 colors. It's a reasonable price. It's knit, it's comfortable, it's stretchy, all the things. She loves it. Obviously I love it because I want it, but as a true sewist, I decided, why would I buy it when I can sew it? Let me show you what patterns I plan on using to make this set. First up, for the top, I'm going to use Brittany J. Jones Know Me 2013. I went back and forth on this a little bit because there are so many knit top options that I could have gone with, but ultimately I decided that I wanted this short sleeve fitted crop top look. Now, I've already sewn views A and D in a black and white, and then views B and D in a solid navy. So I already know this pattern is going to work for what I want for this set. Now, if we look at the back of the pattern envelope, you can see there's some extra seaming detail here that makes it a little bit more than just a simple crop tee, and I'm excited to make this one again. For the skirt, I've decided to go with New Look 6804. Now truthfully, this is just a quarter circle or A-line sort of skirt in a lightweight jersey. I could have drafted this pattern, but why when New Look 6804 exists? So I'm going to be doing view E, which is a midi length, but I'm going to be using the waistband of view D because it lacks the ruching. I want a nice smooth finish on it. Now let's take a look at the fabric that I've chosen to sew this set in. I do think that the original fabric for the Pretty Garden version is a middle to lightweight knit and a little bit more stable than the fabric that I have here. This is definitely a lighter weight jersey knit. It's not like a tissue weight, but it's definitely a lighter weight jersey knit, but I still think this is going to work. And actually this is a remnant that I grabbed from Walmart. I got 4 yards for I think $8 or $10. So if this doesn't turn out exactly like I want it, I'm not that worried about it because it's only $8 and this is going to make great content. So here's the fabric that I have picked out. In this video, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about my approach to sewing, more so than a step-by-step instructional video on how to sew these two patterns. That being said, I said all this to give you just like a background of how I start the project. Usually this happens weeks, months, apparently years before in my head, where I think of what patterns and fabrics I'd like to pair. Now, I sometimes do this, like I said, just in my head. Sometimes I write it down in a journal in a list form. Sometimes I make my digital sketches. I have a whole YouTube video about how I do that as well. And then sometimes, more recently, I've been using the Threadloop app to save my ideas before I forget them. And that helps me to not come down to my sewing space and waste 30 minutes to an hour trying to pick a fabric and a pattern to sew that day. If I already have these ideas solidified somewhere, whether again it's in my head, on a piece of paper, or in an app, I can immediately go right into sewing. There's a few more things that I want to do to prep tonight, so I'm ready to go tomorrow. So let's go through that checklist. First thing I need is a clean sewing room, so I take a moment to clean up my space before grabbing my patterns New Look 6804 and Know Me 2013. Of course, you always want coordinating thread to go with your fabric, so I match those before grabbing the correct weight needle for this project, which is going to be a ballpoint needle weight 8011. And then I need serger thread because I will be serging my seams, as well as elastic for the waistband of the skirt. Now I have everything that I need to start this project. I started my day a little later than I had planned, but that's okay because sometimes you simply need a slow morning. That being said, I'm jumping right in by cutting out all the pieces for both the skirt and the top. I'm going to focus on sewing the skirt today because it takes less pieces. I think it's going to be a quicker sew, and I always like to start a project with a win. This skirt simply has a front and a back and 4 waistband pieces. So it comes together really simply. First, we're going to pin the skirt front and back together right sides facing along both of the sides. And then we're going to do the same thing for the waistbands. You're going to create 2 waistbands right sides facing, pinning together the short edges of the side. Now we're finally at the sewing machine where I am threading my machine with my coordinating thread, loading the bobbin. Now keep in mind I've already switched out my needle to the appropriate needle, and we're just going to sew together all the seams that we previously have pinned together over at the cutting table. I'm now moving over to my serger because I just prefer to have my seams finished with a serger. There are more fancy ways to do it, but for knit, serging is just fine. You can see here that I am switching out my 2 looper colors, and that's simply because I don't have 4 pink cones of serger thread. So I'm just doing the loopers because that's what you can see the most. And I like to do the tie off method where you just simply clip the threads above the machine and tie on the new color. It works just fine for me 90% of the time. And here you can see how it transitions from the tan to the pink. Now that I have 2 waistbands, I am going to sew them together along the top edge by turning one inside out so I can place them right sides together. Starting at the side seams, center front and center back, I'm going to pin it along the top edge. Take it over to the sewing machine, sew 1/4 of an inch from the top and then 3/4 of an inch from that seam so that I can have a channel to insert the elastic. All right, I am cropping my face out of this because I just can't get everything in a non-vertical shot. But I want to show you guys where I am for the end of day 1, or at least break for day 1. We'll see if this is really the end. Here's the deal. I wanted this to lay smoother. See how there's a few gathers here? And if I smooth it out a little bit more in the front, yes, I have this on over my jumpsuit. I would usually try this on naked, but that's not going to work for camera. So this is, you know, lays flat if I push it all the way back like that and didn't have these layers of stuff underneath it. However, then for sure when I turn around to the back, there's a lot of gathering here at the waistline for the yoke. And I'm not sure if I'm okay with that. I really ideally wanted it to fit smooth all around. And this is for 2 reasons. One, I picked an extra large size and I probably should have went with a large. 2, I use this lighter weight knit. If I had used a heavier knit, then this would lay flatter. So it's a combination of the 2 things. I sort of knew that going into it. I didn't really think that I had sized up. I was actually, you know, unsure. I thought about cutting the large and I was like, no, I definitely need an extra large. Anyway, maybe I was wrong there. Maybe it is more the fabric. Also, this is longer than I thought. I thought this was going to be a midi length and this is very much a floor length. But now that we've made this mistake, I'm not sure if I want to keep it as a floor length, which might be great for going into fall, or if I want to cut off 6 or 8 inches and make it a midi. I might just do a double 1-inch hem and make it hit like right at the ankle so you can see a little peak of shoe coming out. We'll see. I'm probably going to wear this with sandals in the summer and sneakers in the fall, so full length might not be bad, but I really wanted to finish this today. This was the plan, was to finish the skirt today, the top tomorrow. However, if I rush and make a decision right now, I might make the wrong one. And I'm honestly starting to get sort of hungry. I've been down here since about 12:30 and it is almost 4. So between recording and actually sewing, this has taken a little bit longer than I had expected to. But regardless, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to eat. I'm going to think about if this is the fit that I want. If I feel like this is the fit that I want, I'll just come back and hem the skirt. If I decide that I want it to be a midi or I want to take it in a little bit, then that's going to take a little bit more work. The lazy part of me is thinking that I'm just going to keep it the waistband the same, but I might alter the length. Ultimately, I decided against being lazy and instead make the alterations to the waistband because every time I wear the skirt, these gathers are just going to bother me. So I grabbed my seam ripper and started unpicking. I needed to unpick the whole waistband or yoke from the skirt. Once I had that removed, I also removed the elastic from the channel before cutting off 1 inch off both sides. Now keep in mind the waistband is folded in half, so cutting off 1 inch means I cut off 1 inch from the front and 1 inch from the back. So really 2 inches from both sides, which is a total of 4 inches. That means I also needed to remove the same 4 inches from the waistband of the skirt. So I measured 1 inch from the top edge of the skirt and tapered it down, just sort of eyeballing it to where it would blend back into the original side seam of the skirt to keep the fullness. All right, I am pleased with the modifications here. It's still too long. It's too late, not too late, but it's late enough that I don't feel like hemming this right now. I did take in both sides by about 1 inch, and you can see that the difference that made is this does lay a little bit flatter, aside from, my natural curves. Yeah, so here it lays a little bit flatter. You don't have as much gathering. Same thing for the back, not nearly as much gathering. There's going to be some, again, because this is not a heavyweight knit and I didn't interface it or anything, but it still lays flatter than it did before I took the 2 inches out, or I guess 4 inches out all around. So that fits much better. Obviously, I could have gotten away with sewing the large. Overall, I do like the skirt. It's swishy. The fabric is not too lightweight. It is a lot of fabric, because it's a maxi skirt, so you wouldn't want something too heavy. It would really weigh you down and put a lot of stress on this elastic waistband. But I like how it flows. I like how it moves. I like the color. It is a little too long. I hope you can see the length here. It is a little bit too long. But overall, I'm very pleased with it. Tomorrow, I will serge the waistband seam. It's sewn, but not serged. And I will hem the bottom of the skirt. I think I am going to keep it full. I think I have enough room to do like a double fold inch hem. Maybe more, maybe 1.5 inches. To hopefully keep the sway. Or I may trim it and hem it. We'll see how it works first. But yeah, so I'm happy with this. In the morning, I will hem this and then start on the shirt. Another day, another afternoon start. The last thing I have to do on the skirt is sew the hem, but we're going to put that aside and do it a little bit later because today's primary focus is going to be sewing the top. Thankfully, I've already cut out all the pieces for the top yesterday, so all I need to do today is pin together the front to the side fronts as well as the back to the side backs. Once I have the front and the back pieces sewn, I will attach the front to the back right sides facing by sewing the side seams and the shoulder seams. All right, y'all, I am doing a quick try on to see what I feel about the shirt. So far, I have pretty much just put the top together. This does call for a lined bodice for the top, the front and the back pieces. And right now I have it on unlined. You can't see through it even though this is a fairly lightweight jersey. It's not quite transparent. It's still pretty opaque. So I could definitely get away with outlining it, but I think I'm going to go ahead and line it, and let me tell you why. This calls for it to be lined, I think mainly so that you can have a really clean neckline. If you lined it, this would just be clean. If I decided to omit the lining, I would draft a band. Now, I've done that for this top before and it worked out fine. It's really cute. I like it because the sleeves have a sleeve band and the top calls for a hem band. So to me, everything having a band makes more sense. But I'm really deciding to do the lining because these princess seams here in this, even though it's not truly transparent, it's also not truly opaque. And I feel like if I serge this seam on the inside, this seam here, I feel like if I serge that, then that's going to see through because this is a lighter weight knit. So my plan is going to be to go ahead and cut these pieces out again to make the shell or the lining of this and then sew it together. Then I can do the clean net line up top, and I think I'm going to omit the hem band at the waistband as well. and probably the sleeves. I actually thought a minute about omitting the sleeves altogether because I like this, but it is really late in the summer and I do want to be able to wear this. So I think the short sleeves gives me just like a little bit more of an opportunity to wear this longer into the year. So I'm going to go ahead and add the sleeves, but I think I'm going to omit the bands on everything, mostly because I don't want the hem band of the shirt to like sort of compete with this wide yoke of the skirt. Now, the alteration that I had already made is I added 2 inches of length to the hem. If that wasn't there, it would probably hit somewhere up here. Now, there's a part of me that's considering doing this because I think that, you know, every once in a while I like to show a little bit of skin. You get that little peak of skin, which I like even with my thick midsection. But again, going into the fall, I think I want it to lay over. And if I want that, then I need to keep these 2 inches. And I could do a nice deep 1 inch hem if I wanted to, and it would hit sort of like right at the top. And that is our plan for now. I'm about to cut out those pieces, sew the lining, sew these two together, and then let's look at the final look. All right, we're back with another try on. Let me tell you what I've done in the last hour or so. I have lined the top, so now we have 2 layers of the same fabric. I've attached it here at the neckline. You can see here I have a clean neckline, excuse the mic, which just means that I didn't have to add a hemband or anything here. You can possibly see how I have it understitched so that lining doesn't roll out. That's done. I've attached one sleeve, one not sleeve. Y'all, I'm really feeling the sleeveless. It's going to be a little bit more tedious to finish off the armhole if I don't add the sleeve. I'll probably just fold it in a 1/2 inch and then do a zigzag as a top stitch. That's not the cleanest looking on the outside to me, but that's where we are now because I've already attached the linings. Or I could keep it with the sleeve, which was my initial intention, and you know, looks a little bit more fallish, I think. Now, I just don't know. I like both, if I'm being honest. It's hard to say. The sleeve is almost giving me a little matronly, and that's what I'm sort of worried about. Because even though I want to wear it into the fall, I could always keep it sleeveless and put like just a jean jacket on it or something. And then I could also wear it in the summer. So right now in this moment, I'm leaning a little bit towards that because I could fold both the lining and the outside in. And then, like I said, zigzag top stitch. And I could do the same thing to the bottom of the shirt. So I am leaning a little bit towards doing that. I do think you can't see right now because I can't step far enough away that I am going to keep the skirt at a maxi length. And it's something about it having the sleeve and the skirt being maxi, although that looks more fall-ish, might just be a little too covered up for me. I don't know. I'm trying to decide. You guys let me know in the comments. By the time you see this, I would have already made a decision, obviously. But let me know if I made the right decision. I'm going to take a few more minutes and stare at myself in the mirror and think about this and decide how to finish off both the armholes, whether it's the armhole or the sleeve, as well as how to finish off the hem here. So another check-in coming soon. All right, it is the end of this sewing project. It is Sunday afternoon, so I'm finishing right on time. I'm pretty pleased with myself. You can see that there are some changes from what I originally planned on doing on Friday. So let's talk about those. First up, in the beginning of this video, if you remember, I was trying to dupe a set from Amazon, Pretty Garden, and that had short sleeves and a midi skirt. Now I have a maxi skirt and a sleeveless top. How did we get here? Let's start with the skirt because I started with it first on Saturday. I thought this was the midi length, 5'5", and it has a 2-inch hem and it's still this long. So obviously this is a maxi skirt pattern. I did sew an extra large. It ended up being too large. It's a new look 6804, by the way. I ended up taking out about 4 inches, so I should have sewn a large. This is a very stretchy, lightweight sort of jersey. It has great recovery, so I guess I probably should have always started with the large, but it's easier to take in than let out, so I don't regret cutting the extra large at first. I was concerned that this jersey was going to be too light for the look that I wanted, but I actually think it works quite nicely. It has nice flow. And I think it's great. It's not see-through. It's opaque enough that, you know, you don't have to worry about wearing shorts or something underneath it. But I also feel like I could wear leggings underneath it in the fall, and that would be fine too. So good. I am happy that I kept the maxi length instead of cutting it off to the midi length, because I think I can wear leggings with it, and that'll be helpful to wear it into the fall. So again, the skirt is New Look 6804. The top is Know Me 2013, which is a Brittany J. Jones pattern. I've made this twice before. Once I made view A, which is sleeveless with the square neck. Once I did view B, which has the short sleeves and the same round neck. That one I did unlined, so I ended up having to add a neckband to it. I kept the lining here, so I omitted that. I also omitted the hem at the band at the hem here, and I elongated this by 2 inches. So each one of the bodice pieces, back, front, and side back, I lengthened by 2 inches, and then I folded it up for an inch and sewed the hem here. So if you sew it straight out of the envelope, you might have a little bit more of a cropped length on your top than what I have here. So those are the changes that I made there. If you follow the instructions for view A, you can get a really clean look for the armholes, but since I decided to do it at the last minute, I have a zigzag top stitch here, but you can see that I do have a clean neckline up here. So overall, I think it works together. I decided against the short sleeves that I had initially planned because it just looks a little too matronly to me. I was a little bit too covered up. I feel like I can still wear this in the fall with like a jacket, so I'm okay with leaving the sleeves off. I've made this shirt, like I said, with the sleeves on. It's still cute, but something about paired with the maxi skirt, I wanted sort of my arms out, and again, a jacket will get me through the fall there. Got a little bit of extra warmth because it's lined, I guess, maybe. But overall, I'm really happy with this set. I will have a blog post about this outfit, so any of the details that I maybe forgot to mention here will definitely be there. And if you're a person like me and sometimes you just like to read things, it helps my retention. I'll have it in a blog post form as well. And hopefully you'll just sort of have an idea of how I approached this whole project, which was trying to have everything planned out and ready to go for me on Saturday. I did all of those kind of things on Friday night, gathering the patterns, making sure I had all the pieces, making sure I had thread, changing the needle in my machine, all the things like that to be ready to go when I started sewing on Saturday. And then even if I had a mishap with the skirt, I was still able to pretty much stay on track, finish it today as well as the top. So I wouldn't say that I sewed all day, both days, about half day, maybe a little longer yesterday, and about a half a day today I've spent in my sewing room working on this. So I think this isn't bad for a weekend of sewing. I'm quite pleased. I will probably find somewhere to wear this next week. Yeah, let me know if you like this kind of video. I don't usually do sew-alongs, but I think I might be willing to venture into it. So if you'd like some more information on step-by-step how to sew things, let me know. If you like just sort of this sewing vlog style where you just see sort of how my process works, let me know that as well. You can also let me know if I should have kept the short sleeves or not, because I'm curious as to what y'all think. Or any other questions that you may have, you can leave behind in the comments. And until next time, happy sewing! Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and happy sewing.